between a libertarian and a Republican. Welcome to Publitarian Podcast.
Well, hello there. See, you thought I was going to do the tagline, but I didn't. If I do the tagline every time, then it becomes just like something you look forward to where you're not even paying attention to the podcast anymore. You're just waiting for that good morning, yada yada. But then again, I've wasted broadcast time explaining that to you. As always, this is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, and this is Publitarian Podcast. And coming to you from Publitarian Studios, the famous Publitarian echo that you hear in the background will probably be more pronounced because we are officially moving. So Publitarian Studios is bare. I'm literally just at a desk and a chair and looking at a bunch of bare walls. And the beer fridge is unplugged. There will be no hum, but it's a very sad day because there will be no cold beer in the beer fridge. So I do not get to tell you about my drink of choice, although I am drinking a Coca-Cola from that evil, hateful, gay-bashing company called Chick-fil-A. More power to you. I wish the world kind of worked like Chick-fil-A. What's great about Chick-fil-A? I don't know. If you do not have a Chick-fil-A where you are, then rip. I'm just pouring out Chick-fil-A cup. One for my homies. There we go. I wish government worked as efficiently and smoothly as Chick-fil-A. If you've never been to Chick-fil-A, it's this wonderful chicken sandwich shop, and Mrs. Publitarian calls it Jesus Chicken. Rightly so. I think it was blessed by God. It's that good. And the reason I know it's that good is because if you do go to Chick-fil-A and you go to their drive-thru, typically in a Chick-fil-A location, there will be cars wrapped around the building once and then wrapped around a second time with someone actually directing traffic. And everything runs smoothly and efficiently, and even when utter chaos is barking at their door, they're just super friendly. They say my pleasure, and they get you taken care of, and you get your meal, and you get out, and it's a wonderful thing. Take notes, federal government. That private industry can run rings around you. Anyway, that had nothing to do with what I was talking about today. And this is episode 53, and I think I'm just going to run through some news of the day. I was going to start my Resist the Admin segment, but I probably will not have time. Like I said, this may be the last podcast for a week or two. I'm not sure how quickly I can get the studio reestablished, but we are in fact moving. But that's good news. Bad news for the podcast listeners, good news for me. So, of course, I'm going to have to address the dumpster fire that is the Georgia State representative and her confrontation at a Publix with an Hispanic, quote, white man, end quote. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm sure you would by this point, Erica Thomas, she's a Georgia State representative. She did a live stream, and she was so upset, crying crocodile tears of how this white man told her she needed to go back to where she came from. And it was in this era of white privilege. And she was just, oh man, she was just tearing it up. I should actually just play the audio clip, but I'm not going to. There's no point in doing that because I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So anyway, she goes back to give another interview at this Publix with the willing news media right in tow. And she starts telling her story, and lo and behold, the guy that she was talking about is at the Publix. And then he starts giving his own side of the story. And the more he tells of the story, the more you realize, well, I mean, come on. I'm not even going to say the more you realize that this was a hate crime or a hate hoax, because in the era of Jussie Smollett and the Covington kids, we pretty much know that liberals have to fabricate racism because they are in the business of marginalizing and racism. They have to have it. It's like their profit center. If they don't have this racism, if they don't have something to point at and go, look how evil that is, then a lot of eyeballs will be starting to look internally at their own fault. If they don't have that thing that they can point at that's ugly, such as racism, then this whole thing's going to fall apart. And one of my famous quotes that I will attribute to myself, that I'll do a podcast on later, is my Kool-Aid principle. There's only two explanations now for liberalism and people that ascribe to liberalism. They are either serving the Kool-Aid or they are drinking the Kool-Aid. And I will explain that in another podcast episode. So anyway, this person that is either serving or drinking the Kool-Aid, Miss Thomas, actually gets confronted by the guy that she said that she needed to go back from where she came from, and that he called her some choice words and that she was lazy, yada, yada, yada. So the poetic justice of this whole thing is the dude shows up. He shows up while she's giving this interview. And he's like, no. Let me tell my side of the story. And if you listen to his side of the story, it does sound more succinct. Now, before you think I'm jumping on the bandwagon because he's a white man and I am an evil right-winger, and of course I'm going to take the side of the white man. Oh, just listen up, ladies and gentlemen. This is not just some white man. It's not a white man. Spoiler alert. He's a Cuban. And not only is he Cuban, Hispanic, he votes Democrat. How do I know this? Because he said it. He said it on the interview. He said, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I will always vote Democrat. What he did admit to saying to her is that he said that she was a lazy B word. So what happens is she's sitting here in the 10 items or less lane, claiming her privilege, and she's 9 months pregnant, and how dare we question her? And so she's lazy according to this guy. So that's what he said. He admits to calling her lazy, and that's it. So all the other stuff, according to this Hispanic Cuban Democrat, was fiction. So yeah. So then she backpedals. She does another tweet. She doubles down at first because that's what liberals do. They double down and triple down on their point because that's all they have is gaslighting. They have to continue to serve you the Kool-Aid. So she doubles down on it. Oh no, that's not really the case. That's not. So he said go. He didn't say go back. He said language that's like go back. So she had to walk that back. Speaking of going back. And now, according to PJ Media, there is video of the initial confrontation. And I'm assuming the reason that video has not come to light is because it shows exactly what that man said is the case. Now, I may be proven wrong on this. I try to give this stuff from breathing room. If there's something that happens in the news like this and it's some kind of hate crime, I always sit on it. I don't start tweeting about it or broadcasting about it because 99.99% of the time this is going to be some fabricated bullshit. And that's what this appears to be. So according to PJ Media, there is footage of the initial incident. The reason being is everybody has a freaking video phone on them nowadays. So if you're going to spin some kind of yarn, just know that somebody's going to get footage of it more than likely. Especially if there's some kind of confrontation, everybody's whipping out their phones because they want to be a part of the action. Citizen journalism in action, I guess you could call it. So anyway, that's what's going on. Anyway, so she did some backpedaling later on social media. He didn't really say that. He just used language like that. He's adamantly denying it. So what's great about this, you've got a Cuban Democrat, lifelong Democrat, up against another Democrat, liberal cannibalism at its finest. And what's even more entertaining about this is this woman. She's been seeing this go back to where you come from bullshit with the Trump tweet. And I'm not even going to get into that because I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, you listen to other political pundits as well. And the Trump tweet controversy has been beat to death. He didn't send out a racist tweet. I don't even think he worded it improperly. Some conservatives are starting to backpedal on that and saying that he did this and that. No, it was perfectly fine tweet. Anyway, so what's great about this whole thing is I think she was going to induct herself into the squad. And when I say the squad, I should really call them the squat because these 4 congresswomen that want to ruin America and transform it into a socialist, Islamo-fascist utopia, that's what they are. It's just somebody put their butt over a toilet and squatted. And there you go. There's the squat. So this woman thought she was going to be in the squad. She thought she was going to come up, bring up the coattails, and become a part of the squad. And not only did she not become part of the squad, now she's backpedaling. I don't know what part of the squad she thought she was going to be joining. I don't know. Maybe she thought she was going to join the squad as Aquaman. Like you got Superman, Batman, all the main leaguers up there, and then you got Aquaman that can ride some dolphins. Hey, no, don't forget about me. I'm part of the squad. No, sorry. Sorry, my dear, you do not get to be part of the squad today. I mean, why would you want to be in that club to begin with? But I guess if you're on that side of the aisle, yeah, you want to be in the squad. So there you go. You got another woman of color. She gets to be part of the squad. No, just kidding. Not today. Sorry about that, Miss Erica Thomas. So anyway, Georgia, I hope you're proud of your state representatives, and they are serving you well. Moving on. And this next story is kind of a double whammy in its hilarity, because you've got Bernie Sanders, which is always good for funny headlines, even though I treat him seriously. Like, the Bernie bros and the Bernie phenomenon is real. From the Daily Caller, Bernie Sanders not paying campaign workers $15 an hour. Independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign is reportedly locked in a labor dispute with workers who say they want to be paid an annual salary that would equal the $15 an hourly wage that Sanders says should be the minimum for all workers. Campaign workers have reminded Sanders' campaign manager, Fai Shakir, of the Democratic presidential candidate's commitment to a $15 an hour minimum wage, according to documents obtained by the Washington Post published Thursday. So, of course, I don't have to tell my listeners this, but this is another classic example of liberalism. Do as I say, not as I do. Yes, we want high taxes. Yes, we want Marxism. Yes, we want government in control of everything. Yes, we want healthcare in the private sector, everything regulated by government. But not for me. Not for me. I get exempt. Hypocrisy at its finest. So if you think that's the end of the story, that's funny enough that Bernie's not paying his workers $15 an hour. Oh, just wait, ladies and gentlemen. It gets better. From the UK Daily Mail, Bernie Sanders is called a hypocrite and mercilessly mocked online after the socialist firebrand admits he will have to cut the hours of staffers so that he can pay them the $15 minimum wage he is campaigning for. So, Bernie, you're saying you can't afford to pay your people $15 an hour? You're running a type of business here and you can't pay the $15 an hour. If you can't pay that $15, how are you expecting all these other businesses to pay the $15? More do as I say, not as I do BS. I never thought about that. Bernie Sanders bullshit BS. Nice. Something to incorporate into my act. Thanks, Bernie. Appreciate it. I promise I didn't outset this episode with this much poop humor planned. It just started coming out. Okay. All right, moving on. And swerving back into the squad, you have the patriotic American known as Ilhan Omar, who may or may not have married her brother and scammed the immigration system and is in a lot of trouble right now. May or may not. The jury is still out. So lately, she's been comparing ICE treatments of illegal aliens to treatment that we wouldn't do to a dog, and that we value the lives of dogs more than children. And in this soundbite, I forget who she was addressing. I believe it was a presser. It may have been one of the pressers with the squad. She had to, because of the liberal identity politics, she had to throw in the jab that the children don't look like them. That the children don't look like the ICE agents. Never mind that over half of the ICE agents are Hispanic. But whatever. I mean, facts, come on. We don't want to have to deal with facts. Race baiting is all they have. The left side of the aisle, that's all they have. That horrible R word, that's all they have. The race card, they swipe it, they insert the chip, and they enter their PIN number. That's all they have anymore is the race card and the victim status and the minority status. And here's some shocking news for you on that front, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to agree with Ilhan Omar on one of these comments.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
No, don't tune out. Don't tune out. Hear me out. I do think that we prioritize the lives of dogs in this country. In movies, in media, anything else. Human life, okay. But if a puppy gets killed, oh my gosh, everybody's up in arms. Particularly, you can look at her party and see that dogs are treated better than children. Specifically, viable human beings in the womb.
Oh, snap!
That's right. I went there. I mean, I am hypocritical because if I hear of a kid dying or something, I'm like, oh, that's so sad. But like, if a puppy gets hurt, I'm like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I would say it's the innocence, but children are innocent too. So I don't really know what that is. Thoughts? I don't know. And it wouldn't be a News of the Day squad update without an AOC update. You've probably already seen this in the news, but AOC gets schooled on asylum law by the former ICE director, and this was a couple of weeks ago. It was around July 13th, I do believe. And I know everybody's seen the video by now, so I won't pull it up, but I thought I would touch on it since I am talking about the squad. And this circles back to my two options rule again for liberals. They are either serving the Kool-Aid or drinking the Kool-Aid. So that's what's scary about AOC. She's either serving this Kool-Aid or she is drinking the Kool-Aid. And since she is liberally educated, she may be drinking the Kool-Aid. And if you don't understand the Kool-Aid reference, I get it. It's an older reference. I will explain that in another podcast if you don't get it. But in other words, the liberals are either know that they're lying and they're just passing off the dogma, or they are receivers of the dogma and they don't know any different. And I noticed the longer you stay in the liberal dogma, the more immune you are to facts. It's like it thickens your head. And I mean, there's people on the right that are guilty of that too. I've had some hard-headed conversations with right-wingers as well. But it seems like on the left, it's just extra thick concrete and facts just can't get through. Anyway, AOC gets freaking schooled by this guy. Anyway, an exchange between far-left media sensation AOC and former ICE director Thomas Homan has gone viral. So what happened is she's like holding up these statistics and stuff, and she was like, these people are seeking asylum and no human being is illegal, you know, all the same BS. And this guy pretty much just smacks it all down. And it wasn't only AOC. There was another representative as well that tried to get on the act with this guy and kind of like dogpile on him about how horrible the United States is and our asylum laws are horrible, yada, yada, yada. So his point, he just obliterated it all. He was like, okay, when a citizen gets a DUI, if there's kids in the car, they get separated. If somebody murders somebody, they go to jail. The kid does not. They get separated. Separations happen. And he was like, you guys are the legislature. You guys are the legislators. If you want to change it, change it. He's like, but this is the law and this is what we do. And then she thought she had him. And this was the part that I loved. She was like, legal asylees are not criminals. And then he just very calmly shot right back. He was like, if they are legal asylees, then they can do it the right way and go through a port of entry. And that's what you're supposed to do when you claim legal asylum in this country. You have to go through a port of entry and do it the right way. If you're doing it the other way, to where you just like sneak across the border and then somebody catches you and you go legal asylum, that's the same BS that we used to do back in the playground. If we're playing tag and running around and the person's getting ready to tag you and you go, base, and you grab something that you think is the base, or you go, not it, that's the same bullshit. That doesn't work. You just can't go, legal asylum, and everything's all right. Oh, shucks, we didn't grab him quick enough. Yeah, not how it works. You have to go through a port of entry. And even worse, if you are seeking asylum from another country, you have to do it from the closest country, not the United States. So if you're coming up from the Central American countries, you should be seeking asylum in Mexico, which I think is funny because now Mexico is really starting to feel the burn, so to speak, of all of this mass, people are calling it migration. I think it's an invasion when you carry your country's flag into another country. But anyway. So Mexico is feeling the burn about this too, and they're starting to help out more at the border, which I also find funny. And why do I find that funny? I find it funny that Mexico is willing to do more to stem illegal immigration than Americans are. All Trump had to do was threaten some tariffs, and then boom, things start happening. It's like when he made the famous line back when he was running for president, and he was like, "Oh, I know more than these generals, believe me." And everybody's like, "Oh, this guy is egotistical, yada, yada, yada." He does know how to make deals, and that can translate to the foreign stage, as we are seeing. That had nothing to do with my point, just bonus publitarian thought in my head. So anyway, I think that will do it for me for this edition of Publitarian Podcast. If you want to reach out to me, you can. You can DM me on Instagram, or I am publitarian@gmail.com, or thepublitarian@gmail.com. I am on all of the social medias. Instagram is the one I'm on most of the time, but I am on Twitter and Gab and Minds and Parler, even though it looks like it says Parlor, and all the rest of them. So feel free to send me your thoughts if you wish. And until then, I will see you on the next episode. Thank you.
You've been listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2019.